Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today I have a review for you of Blood Reunion by JCM Berne. This is the third book in the Hybrid Helix series, of which I have obviously already read the first two. This is an indie science fiction superhero book. Although I guess this one is pretty sci-fi-y. The main character is an enhanced human, so like that kind of tells you what we're dealing with, if that makes sense. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, so I'm not going to tell you any of the big details that happens in this beyond what would be on the back cover. The one thing that I might do is talk about plot details that are in the first two books. I will try and keep this light, as I know this is a self-published series and it's not like one of the mega popular ones, so you might want to watch this to see if it's worth reading the whole series. I'm not going to go into any big mega plot spoilers, however there may be some things that are just to kind of, as part of the discussion, I have to go through. So Blood Reunion is the third book in the Hybrid Helix series. Hybrid so called because the main character is a hybrid of a human and an alien called an Ildrak. The whole deal with Ildrak is that they are like genetically compatible with every race, and when they hybridize with other races, their children are superhuman, so they have access to kind of a pool of metaphysical power which enables them to do things like fly or pull spaceships in space because they are so strong. Rohan is our main character, and he is Canadian of Indian descent, and he basically grew up on Earth, was a superhero for a bit, and then got recruited into the Ildrak army. Well, they call it Navy because it's spaceships. So ships equals Navy, apparently. So he's recruited into the Ildrak Navy, and along with a load of other heroes from Earth, he then kind of wants out of the Navy. He doesn't want to, you know, be this kind of tool for murder and conquest and oppression that he currently is. And so he's like, right, I'm going to get out of this, and the only way he can think of to get out is to do something for the leaders of the Ildrak society that he doesn't want to do, or not doesn't want to do. He does something very, very difficult and very, very kind of bloody and bad, and the first book or two, a lot of that is dealing with the PTSD of those actions and what he's kind of forced to get involved in. So it's a really, really interesting character to kind of hang the book off of, because he's one of the only humans in the book. Actually, there's two other supporting human major characters, but they're more like minor characters, actually. Anyway, he's the major human character in the book, but he's kind of acclimatized to this space life. He's been living out in space for 15 years, and he has been on this space station called Wistful for a couple of years now, and he works as the tow chief. So all he does is use his superhuman powers to tow ships in to be docked, because they can't use their engines near the station in case there's a miscalculation and they just fly straight into the station and crash. So he basically, his whole job is to tow the ships in, because he can survive in space with just a small like mask that goes over his face, and his superhuman powers allow him to tow these massive ships. And that's kind of the way that ships are designed to work in this society. So they have like tow points and everything. Like that, everything revolves around this kind of hybrid society in space, which is incredibly interesting, I have to say. We also, in book 2, he returned to Earth, And so we got this really fascinating view of Earth in post superhumans. So this is something that Alan Moore does in Watchmen. He has he kind of thinks about the effect that a superhuman could have on society, and then he expands that out. So one of the things you'll see in Watchmen is that they have electric cars in the 80s, and that's because Dr. Manhattan has cracked the science on batteries. So electric cars have been possible ever since there have been batteries, but the battery technology was not advanced enough to make it worthwhile having an electric car. Whereas if you look at Watchmen, they have those electric cars, and it's because Dr. Manhattan has cracked the science on it, and he's able to duplicate the rare earth minerals needed at a quantity to make it a normal and thing that you can just do. So we got to see that post superhuman society in book 2. Now in book 3 we're back on Wistful, which I have to say I was missing the Wistful crew in book 2. So we're back on Wistful. Rohan is kind of a little bit more well adjusted after kind of dealing with his PTSD, and then dealing with like having left everyone on Earth behind, and going basically no communication with his mother and all of his friends and his girlfriend. So that works out. That's kind of that was really good. He's kind of gotten over that hump, as it were. Now he's back on Wistful. It's about 6 months later, and Wistful's Rohan and Ben and Marion Stone, who are the other humans I was talking about, they're scientists. He and them and Rohan are going through one of the wormholes near Wistful, because there are 5 wormholes around. They're going through one of the wormholes to see what they can find. And when they go through one, they find a space station, the exact copy of Wistful, that is completely dead. There's no life on it. And the planet that it orbits above, there is no life on there at all either. And unbeknownst to them, when they come back from this kind of very haunted space station, they bring with them a space vampire. So vampires are real, which is cool. JCM Berne creates a whole new like vampire mythology almost. So he has like the Pledged, which are vampires that refuse to drink blood. He's got the vampires themselves, and he talks about how there's different kinds of vampires. There's like regular ones, there's soul eaters. He develops this whole vampire mythos, and it's really, really cool. And I do hope we get to see more vampiric characters as the series goes on. He also talks about the actual mechanics of the vampirism, how they kind of work in with the metaphysical powers that Rohan has, that all the hybrids have, and that some non-hybrid characters have these powers. So really interesting, really well done. Big kudos to JCM Berne for making vampires in space 100% work. He gets this kind of... He takes vampire stuff and puts it into that sci-fi setting, and it just works really, really well. Really pleased with that. Thought it was fantastic. If you watch the reviews for these books from me before, you'll probably realise that I am... maybe biased is the right term, wrong term. I'm like absolutely like chemically designed to love these books. I love superhero stuff. I love sci-fi, especially space station sci-fi from Babylon 5, Deep Space Nine. And also you can tell that this series kind of takes a bit of inspiration from Invincible, or if it doesn't take an inspiration from it, it is mad, because they both hit on some similar themes. Things like, you know, alien fathers and dominating empires and things like that. Anyway, I love Invincible. I love space station sci-fi stuff. And this feels like the novel equivalent almost. The thing that I really, really like is the way that everything is weaving together. So there's kind of starting to become this overarching plot. So the kind of progenitor race that's been kind of hinted at and mentioned previously. We're seeing a lot of discussion about them in this book. And we're also seeing kind of we're seeing the external threat to the society of the empire and the galaxy as a whole, the old ones, which kind of got a little bit of play in book 2, but now they become kind of the new big background threat, if that makes sense. It's very interesting because in the first book you almost feel like it is Wistful and Rohan versus the Empire, but it seems like it's actually going to be everyone we've ever known and met in these books versus the old ones from outside of the known galaxy. Super interesting. So Blood Reunion doesn't just reference, the title of Blood Reunion does not just reference that there is a vampire in the book, in the blood, but there is also a blood reunion for Rohan as his father joins the cast for some of this book. And I have to say, I was not disappointed. His character, the character of his father, is incredibly interesting, and I cannot wait to see more development of their relationship, of more history of what's happened in the past. I think that character is absolutely brilliant, and especially when JCM Berne nailed the mother and son relationship in the previous book, nailing that kind of father-son relationship in this book, and that kind of complex relationship. So you have, Rohan has this, he has these memories of his father, he has this fondness and this love for him, kind of through that familial bond almost, but the actual person of who his father is quite objectionable, is someone that he does not 100% like or get on with. Really interesting, really great, complex character that I had a lot of fun reading about. So so this book's really good. I'm sure you can tell. We're getting to the point now where the 5th book, so I talked to Joe actually randomly in the comments of a video recently, and he was saying that the 5th book is coming out soon. So that means I've got to read the 4th book pretty soon in order to be able to catch up and be ready to read it on day 1. This series is really good. I'm sure that I have pitched this at you guys enough that if you're interested in sci-fi stories, you're thinking about reading it. And especially if you're interested in the stories that I've talked about, so things like Deep Space Nine that have this kind of complex space politics stuff going on, as well as the interpersonal relationships of the people who live and work on the station. If you're interested in things like Babylon 5, which have this kind of space setting, but also this kind of like big ongoing threat in the background, that's very much something that we see here. And again, Invincible with the father-son dynamic, and also with the kind of half-human alien race empire sort of stuff going on. Really recommend this series to pretty much anyone at this point, although especially to the people that I've referenced just then. This book was I think I rated it 4 stars when I finished the book, and I don't know if I agree with myself. I don't know whether I would say that this actually is a 4-star, or whether this one was the first 5-star Hybrid Helix book. I don't really have any complaints. I really enjoyed getting to spend more time with Wei Li. I really enjoyed the vampire as the protagonist, and the downtime we had between the big action set pieces was used really well. So it enabled, some more character depth, to able to have some more interesting conversations among the characters, and the kind of mystery of what's going on with Wistful the whole time was really good. And I also really liked the kind of reveals that we get about the Ilsane, about their society, and about Ilsane that we may or may not have met before. So yeah, overall, this book was great. I think that if I did give half stars, this would be a 4.5 star. I don't know whether I'm going to round that up to a 5 or keep it as a 4. It's a struggle. I think that we're gonna end up on a 4 star, but honestly, I feel like I want to sit down and like think about this book for a bit longer. I only finished it last night, and the ending was just super good. So I don't know whether I'm rolling off the high of that ending because I haven't started my next book yet, or whether you know, I actually am like, yeah, that was like the shit. That's the top 5 star. I don't know if I remember getting that 5 star feeling, so I think it's going to end up a 4. But that's a long talk about whether this is a 4 or 5 star book. What I'm telling you is it's a good book and I would really recommend it. So if you have read Blood Reunion and you'd like to chat with me about it, or if you've read any of the Hybrid Helix books, please pop down below and let me know kind of what you think about it, and you know, who your favorite characters are, all that sort of stuff. And then if you like this video, please do give it a like. And if you're watching this one and you're not subscribed to the channel, as some large number of you might be, I would love it if you subscribed. It makes a real difference. I'm also running a charity appeal at the moment for BCHC, the Birmingham City Healthcare Charity. So I would really love it if you were able to make a donation down there. It's like a sponsored readathon thing, and so one of my friends reached out to me and asked me if I could promote it on the channel, and I was like, I'm not just going to promote it, I'm going to take part, and I've only got 1 donation. So I would love it if people made donations. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and I will speak to you tomorrow.